like to invite all legislators to come to the chambers. We will be having the full legislative meeting first, and then on to committees. I am going to call the full legislature to order. We're going to reconvene our meeting of August 8th. And I'd ask Legislator Ford to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing after.
Please rise and join me as we say.
For a moment of silence for Khalil Jones, who's the son of Dawn Wood Jones, who's a member of our Office of Legislative Budget Review. Khalil tragically lost his life at 25 years of age, so please keep Khalil and his mother in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Order of business is a point of personal privilege that all 19 of us are going to join in. This is the final day of our stenographer, Frank Gray, who's retiring. Yes, it is. After 23 years, Frank is going to call it a day. Right? We have submitted a, please prepare a resolution barring him from retiring. 23 years is an extraordinary length of service. I'm not sure that anyone will ever do that again, or anyone in their right mind anyway. He's been transcribing our meetings for all of those years. I can't count the number of times that we went late when some people said it was going to be a short meeting. I can't count the number of times there were verbal disputes where Frank had to throw his hands up because there were 5 or 6 of us yelling at the same time. He's had to endure filibusters by Legislator Rhodes. Frank has taken down enough hot air that could fill several Hindenburgs. But in all seriousness, Frank, it's been a pleasure to have you. You've been serving us conscientiously for all of those years. You've sat there for hours on end without requiring breaks, and you've always been there and available whenever we had a meeting, a hearing, or whatever it was we were doing. So we all thank you very much for your service and wish you all the best in all your future endeavors. Minority Leader Abrahams.
Thank you, Presiding Officer Frank. I remember the first day I served in the legislature at the old building, and you've been a part of our institution from the very beginning. And I guess older guys like Rich and I that have been serving for 20-plus years know the amount of sacrifice you've made, the late-night meetings, and I mean, at times where legislators go on, and I mean, you're a steward of everything that is good about this institution, and I hate to see you go, but I know in life it's a part of the times where I'm looking forward. I know you're looking forward to much. Is it retirement you're looking towards, Frank, or just something? All right. Now, when you just said yeah, do you stenographer that too? But all in all, Frank, you're a genuine person, and you've put this institution first every single time. And I just want to wish you the best on behalf of our caucus and the entire legislature for your tremendous amount of service that you've given to this county, and more importantly, also to this legislative body and your sacrifice. But thank you, Frank. I'll be happy to play basketball if you guys want. Yeah, sure, man. Definitely. Give me a call.
Frank, I have to say also, I remember when I first started and we were over at West Street, and I think about the marathon of the meetings that we had, especially during budget time when we had a budget hearing on each and every single committee, and it gave people an opportunity to drag those hearings out for 8 hours, 9 hours. And how many times did we sit here till, come on, remember, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, and your patience and your good-naturedness always came through, and God bless you. And I can't believe I've been working with you now for like almost 19 years. So we were like young kids at that time.
I don't remember the time we were here till 6 o'clock in the morning.
I might have missed. Oh, I'm sorry. I think ours was 2 I think my latest was 2 in the morning or whatever. And just even the fights that people had, and, you know, just, and I think it actually is a district that Steve Rhodes is in, because Dave Denenberg was another one that really just loved to, like, carry things on till the end. So, the area. Right. For the, right, yeah. All the overtime you got, right? But good luck with whatever you decide to do. Well deserved, and I have to say, I don't know what we're going to do without you, but no, we won't. But thank you. Take care.
Anyone else? If not, you're going to have to tear yourself away from that for a moment. We have a presentation for you. So come on up. All right. So in terms of the reconvened meeting, I'm going to be calling now calendar numbers 36 through 41 and resolutions 151 through 156 of 2022. These are resolutions authorizing the county attorney to compromise and settle the claims of petitioners as set forth in the actions entitled Fortuna LA LLC, Board of Managers at Stratford at North Hills Condominium, Board of Managers of Hamlet East Condominium, Board of Managers of the Wharfside Condominium, Rockaway Realty Associates, and Seasons at Mitchell Field. So we need a motion and a second. Motion by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell, seconded by Minority Leader Abrahams. Any debate or discussion on these items? Went through committees at our last meeting in August. Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, they carry unanimously. Now we have an emergency. Or is it two emergencies? One emergency. Mike, could you call the emergency?
Thank you. An emergency resolution declaring an emergency for immediate action upon local laws to amend Section 6-2.2 and 6-2.4 of Title A of the Chapter 6 of Chapter 272 of the Nassau County Administrative Code in relation to increasing the maximum income eligibility level for the real property tax exemption for certain persons within limited income, and for persons with disability and limited incomes, pursuant to Section 467 and 459C of the real property tax law.
Thank you. We need a motion to establish the emergency. Moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Drucker. All in favor? Any debate or discussion on the motion? All in favor of establishing the emergency signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? The emergency is established. Now I will call the item. Clerk, items 286 and 287 of 2022, local law to amend Section 6-2.2 and Section 6-2.4 of Title A of Chapter 6 of Chapter 272 of the Nassau County Administrative Code in relation to increasing the maximum income eligibility level for real property taxation exemption for certain persons with limited income and persons with disabilities and limited incomes pursuant to Section 467 and 459C of the real property tax law. Motion by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Bino. That item is before us. This is the action that will opt into increases in the income levels permitted for the senior citizens and disabled tax exemptions. Recently, the state changed the law to allow localities to opt into increased limits. In particular, the minimum amount to be eligible. Actually, you had to have at least under $50,000 to be eligible for the exemption, and then there's a sliding scale as you move up. But previously, we were limited to providing these exemptions to those earning $28,000 or less. So this increases both the limits for the senior citizens exemption as well as the exemption for those who have disabilities. It does not, however, unfortunately, increase the exemption to what this New York City can currently offer. We have been advocating for years now that Nassau County be permitted to increase the income limits up to the same amount that the city has, which I believe is $58,000, correct? Okay. That may be not for the senior citizens, correct? It goes up to 50. That's what's allowed, but the city is allowed as a higher number. Okay. All right, check that. But we are increasing the income limits for these two exemptions. Anyone else want to speak to this? Okay, Legislator Rhodes, then Minority Leader Abrahams.
I couldn't be, I may be too far for the mic, but I couldn't be more excited that this is finally happening. For years, we have been decrying the fact that our seniors here in Nassau County, Suffolk County, are being treated differently from seniors in the city of New York. We are one of the most expensive places to live. Our residents pay among the highest amount of taxes any place in the state, really any place in the country. And with inflation running rampant, With our economy suffering as a result of the pandemic and the shutdown, any relief that we can offer to our seniors is something that we're interested in offering. And we have been calling for an increase in the limits since 2019, and it took 3 years for the state legislature to actually move forward and treat our seniors the same as the seniors in the city of New York. That finally happened when the governor signed the bill about 3 weeks ago, and while it took the state legislature 3 years to put our seniors on parity, it's going to take this legislature about 3 weeks to do the same thing. So I'm excited that this is being advanced. I want to thank the presiding officer for moving this ahead so quickly, and I am happy to vote in favor of the bill.
Okay, thank you. Minority Leader Abrahams.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Again, we are in support of the bill, obviously, for obvious reasons. It's going to be able to help our seniors and our limited income residents and households as well. I think of note, right now, the current thresholds of $26,000, I'm roughing it to $34,000, is helping generally about 9,000 people. When we are now increasing the thresholds to 50,000 and 58,000, you would think conceivably we'll be able to double the amount of people that are eligible, but that's really based off the applicants that are being asked. So I want to encourage, assuming upon passage of this legislature and the county executive signing this into law, I just want to make sure that we are doing a full court press to make sure residents are aware of the higher incomes than in the past that they should be applying. And I think everyone in this legislature should be imploring the county executive to use every resource he has to ensure that those residents that weren't eligible in the past are aware of these new thresholds, so that we can maybe even exceed that doubling of the number just based off the income levels alone. But thank you.
I think we will do the same as legislators, trying to reach as many people as possible. Maybe it's not as directed because we would not have access to who might be eligible, but if we can use social media as well as other means to let people know that they may be eligible for this exemption, and as with all exemptions, they have until the end of this year to apply. So we'll be making that push. Anyone else? All right. Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. All right. That was all of our business for the recessed meeting, so now I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Legislator Ford, seconded by Legislator Walker. All in favor of adjourning the legislature signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? Legislature is adjourned, and now we'll go right into the Rules Committee. Mike, could you call the roll for the Rules Committee, please?
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Roll call. Legislator Sela Bino. Legislator Delia DeRicci-Whitten. Ranking Member Kavan Abrahams. Legislator Laura Schaefer. Legislator Stephen Rhodes. Vice Chairman Howard Coppell. Chairman Richard Nicolello. We have a quorum, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll be handling the contracts portion of the committee at this time, and I'm going to call those contracts in bulk at once. A19, A22, A23, A34 of 2022. These are resolutions authorizing the Commission of Shared Services to execute a purchase order or blanket purchase orders between the county and Rockland Bakery, Inc., Syasa Truck Sales, J&C Ice Tech, Intelitech Corporation. E93, E94, E95, E96, E97, E98, E99, E100, E101, E103, E104, E105, E106. These are resolutions authorizing the county executive to execute personal services agreements or amendments to personal services agreements between the county and the incorporated Village of Garden City, Village of Old Westbury, Village of Rockville Center, Port Washington Police Department, City of Long Beach, City of Glen Cove, Swissport SA LLC, Lyro Engineers, Oracle America, H2M Architects Engineers, BRNT Consulting, Lockwood, Kessler, and Bartlett, and Insum Solutions Corp. Moved by Deputy Presiding Officer Copel, seconded by Minority Leader Abrahams. So all those contracts are now before us, and we'll start off with the Health Department, the contract with Swissport, E99.
Andy Simone, Health. So this contract is for transportation management services to provide New York State mandated transportation services to approximately 1,400 children with developmental delays who are in preschool programs, special education, and early intervention. The services are for children who require transportation from home to center-based programs approved by New York State.
Any questions? No? I think we're good.
Good?
Yes.
Thank you.
you. Next contract is with the District Attorney's Office and BRNT Consulting.
Good afternoon, Presiding Officer, Legislators, Dennis McDermott, Assistant District Attorney. This is an amendment exercising the second one-year renewal with BRNT Consulting and increasing the maximum amount by $40,000 for the maintenance and configuration upgrade services for the District Attorney's JustWare case management system.
Okay. What does that case management system do?
That incorporates every single discovery piece that goes into or goes out to everyone. Information coming in from the police department, from villages. As a matter of fact, before we had spam contract, which is going to help integrate everything coming into the case management system. And BRNT does specific upgrades for the District Attorney's Office.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I just have a question. It's not directly related to this, but I think it was you who came up at the last meeting regarding a grant from the state that was about $300,000 that was for a mandated program for those that were arrested but not going to jail. Do you recall?
I recall. I've been here for supplemental appropriations on grants or budget transfers.
Do you recall any information about that? Because I'm worried about the timing of that one.
Offhand, I do not, Legislator. I can go back and look.
Could
and
you
send
just
it to you.
let us know, because I don't want to miss out on that funding. It
Yeah,
was over
that's fine.
$300,000, and for some reason
It may be us. Normally, by the time I get here, all of the funding has been obtained, as opposed to applications going out. But I'll take a look and I'll let you know.
Okay, because I don't want to miss the date. If
No,
that's
I
the
understand.
case. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next two contracts are with the Correctional Center, starting with A19 with Rockland Bakery.
Good afternoon, legislatures. Narda Hall Correctional Center. Item A1922 is to authorize and award a blanket order for fresh bread products, potato whole white, rye, French hamburger, and frankfurter rolls, bagels, to be awarded to Rockland Bakery. It is for $450,000 from the general funds for a total term of 3 years and 2 months from the effective date. It was advertised in Newsday, New York State Contract Reporter, and posted to the Nassau County Bid Solicitation Board. Minority Affairs and CSEA were notified of the solicitation. 2 vendors bid. 1 was a small business. The Department of Shared Services Office of Purchasing recommends an award be given to Rockland Bakery as being the lowest responsible bidder and meeting the specifications.
Any questions? Sure. Minority Leader Abrahams.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. According to first let me say good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
According to the backup, it's our understanding that I guess there were 2 responsible bidders. The other bidder was the Hall Hospitality. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if I'm understanding based on the bid sheet review, the hall submitted, I guess, a bid, and their prices were actually higher, but we weren't able to figure out how much higher and what the difference was. Do you know that off the top?
Off the top,
Or maybe in your records, or maybe?
I can defer to purchasing.
I know. I want them to.
They're checking.
Okay, sure. Who's going? I'm sorry.
Claudia Colasordo, Office of Purchasing. Doll Hospitality was the second bidder. Per item, they were almost 50% higher than Rockland Bakery.
So they were, I guess for our purposes, they submitted a bid for 900,000?
Well, the unit price, just to give you an example, first item, Rockland Bakery was $1.35 per unit. They were $4.10 per unit.
And the Department of Purchasing is comfortable in saying that Rockland hasn't underbidded their numbers? Like, you feel like those numbers are? We're just concerned that sometimes what we see is contracts, are bidded much lower than what they really are, just so that they can get the work, and then at some point during a given period of time, I guess once the contract expires, but we are in the process of rebidding the contract, the prices go up dramatically. That's been my experience in the county. So whenever I see a price, and I did see what you saw, the per unit, but I didn't know the rolled up number. So I'm glad to hear that I get. Oh, are you saying?
We can split bids. We do it in these particular cases with commodities. We look at unit, not overall. So in many cases, some of our contracts are split between multiple vendors based on price per unit. Here, overall, almost every single unit, Rockland Bakery was lower than Doll Hospitality.
Okay. No, and I get that.
Yeah.
And you feel comfortable in saying to this body that those prices that they gave are real, and they just didn't underbid it to get the work.
I would believe to say that they're real, yes.
Okay. All right. I guess my next set of questions is really tied to some of the IG findings. So but thank you.
Okay.
So it has come to our attention that I guess the Nassau County Inspector General discovered in her background that Rockland Bakery had to pay $850,000 to resolve a hiring discrimination allegation. Were you aware of this particular situation that happened? It occurred in 2017.
Robert Cleary, Chief Procurement and Compliance Officer. Yes, we were aware of the fine. We were aware of the issue with the Department of Labor. The vendor has a consent agreement with the department, and per the department, they are up to date, current in the implementation of that agreement.
Okay. So I guess the couple of questions come up because some of the discrimination allegations and based off of them agreeing to pay out $850,000, they are admitting some level of fault, was that they discriminated against females, women, as well as Black and Asian applicants. Are you aware of that degree of the?
I saw that in the report, yes.
Okay. And obviously, I guess one of the things that they are indicating is that they have extended 52 jobs to female and Black Asian applicants as a result of, I guess, as part of this settlement or action against them. Are you aware of that as well?
That's my understanding.
Okay. I just find it a little bit troubling that we have one vendor that is charging us per unit 3 times the price of, another vendor, and then another vendor that admitted in court, as per the New York Department of Labor, that they discriminated against Black and Asian women. I just find it hard to believe we can't find anybody else that's a responsible bidder that hasn't discriminated against any protected classes?
Well, this is an area that you don't get a lot of competition in traditionally. I had the same issue in New York City with Rikers Island. You usually it will be difficult to find more than 2 or 3 bakeries in the region that are set up to provide these services to a jail based on the jail requirements. The requirements in New York City were more strict than the ones here, but it's still a limited pool of vendors that you typically have. Rockland is the current vendor and has been the current vendor in the past. There's no reason to believe that they're underbidding themselves to win the business. I imagine that the prices are in line with what they're charging now, although I have not confirmed that. When this issue was brought to them, by all appearances, they addressed it head on and are doing everything that the Department of Labor is requiring them to do to correct their practices.
Yes.
And we have that from the Department of Labor.
It's clear that they addressed their practices after they got caught, or after they got this brought to them. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that there has to be some level of I guess from our standpoint, I understand we need roles, and obviously for the correction center that's very important. But at some point we have to draw the line. I mean, it's not that this is an allegation. They've admitted in court that they did this, and they actually have corrective actions, I guess, that go along with that as well. Like I just think that we have to do a better job in the county of being better stewards of taxpayer dollars, and I think we shouldn't be entering into contracts with entities. There has to be some level of professionals. We should be entering into contracts with entities that clearly have discriminated against females, Black and Asian applicants. I mean, we're a cohesive society where we embrace all ethnicities. This county embraces everyone. I mean, it just seems like here we are, and I understand, businesses make mistakes, but they shouldn't be receiving taxpayer dollars when they have a mistake that they're still currently working through. And I guess that's not really a worthy of a response. It's just more of a just sight of the facts. It's just really, really discouraging that in 2022 we would actually have an applicant, we would actually have a contract that we're considering of someone that has discriminated against people that follow the same backgrounds as they did. It just seems that live in this county. It's disheartening, to be honest. And it would be one thing if it happened in 1982 and you came here and told us that they're under new management, new people, and the business changed over. It's the same people, the same folks, according to what I could tell. And somehow we're supposed to believe that because they hired 52 people, 52 female, Black, and Asian applicants, that it's all good, that they corrected their ways. Well, the only reason they corrected their ways is like no different than when my child does something different, he corrects his ways because he got caught. I mean, that's what happened. And is there any level of morality that do we exercise anything in these contracts where we could simply say to someone that we're not going to do this because they're just, I'm not saying they're bad people, but their entity made bad decisions. Is there anything like that that can be resolved?
Well, some of this is not a technical procurement question.
No, it's not.
Some of it gets well beyond my
agree.
Position and my judgment in this regard.
So who from the county can answer that?
Well,
I'm not going to ask you to answer it because obviously I know your background in terms of procurement. So, but there has to be someone that thought, regardless of this, let's send it down to the legislature anyway.
Well, let me speak to that in terms of the procurement.
Okay.
None of us, myself, I'm certainly not defending what they did. And I'm not suggesting that it was okay what they did, according to the documents that have been provided. The determination that a government has to make is whether a vendor is responsible or not. And this is a responsibility issue. It's capacity and integrity. They clearly have the capacity. The question is whether they have the integrity or not. And when a vendor, whether self-reported or identified in a search that we've conducted or identified by another government entity and then investigated, has been found to do something wrong in whatever way, whether it's immoral, illegal, whatever wrong act they've conducted. Generally speaking, you want to know what they did, who investigated it, what was found, what steps were taken, what corrective actions were implemented, what penalties were assessed, and what the status is. And that's the information that we requested from the vendor when we found this. And they disclosed this in their disclosure. This was not something that was found by a separate investigation, although details came to light after there was further questioning. So the vendor, in terms of corrective actions, has done everything that you would expect them to do, as far as we can tell. We've found no evidence that they have not. We found no evidence that they, delayed the process. They appear to have cooperated with the authorities, agreed to the terms that were, given to them, and according to the investigating authority, they are implementing that agreement as required.
So, Rob,
And generally
oh, I'm
speaking,
sorry, guys,
when that is the set of circumstances, a vendor should not be found non-responsible for taking the required corrective actions and being open about it.
But they weren't open about it.
They weren't open. I don't know what happened previously.
No. What I mean is
But-
they weren't open about it because they didn't disclose it to the IG, or didn't disclose
They
it to
did
this body.
disclose it. They disclosed.
The IG.
They identified the issue in their disclosure forms without any further questioning. We had to follow up and request additional information.
Well, we can debate that because we don't believe that was the case. We believe that it was. I mean, maybe is the IG on? Because from our understanding, the IG had to find. She found it. Her office found it.
They may have found it, but there was an answer in the disclosure forms, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I don't believe I am. We knew that
Okay. So we're looking up. There was a line that was indicated, but we're going to look up what it said exactly. But we don't believe it mentioned to the volume of what the IG discovered and unraveled to the tune of an $850 discrimination allegation that was resolved in 2017. Here's the line, just to go back. This suit was because we hired walk-ins as our hiring practice. We have hired a consultant to help us modify our hiring process, and have started to implement a more in-depth hiring procedure that meets the qualifications required by the federal government. That's a very bland statement. When I read what the Department of Labor indicated, the U.S. Department of Labor Contract Compliance Review that found that between January 1, 2017 and December 31, 2017, Rockland Bakery discriminated against female, black, and Asian applicants who applied for work as a cashier, packers, and bakers. I mean, there's a big difference in what they wrote versus what the U.S. Department of Labor is indicating.
that's true. It would have been better if they had attached the consent agreement to their disclosure form. I agree with that.
Okay. So I guess I understand what you're saying, that you feel that they are complying with their I guess consent decree, or lack of a better term. I'm not too sure what the term is in terms of what they're complying with in terms of the payout. But like I said before, I just find it, again, it's just a little disheartening that we came down to two vendors. One, which I totally understand, has a very high price per unit, and obviously would not encourage the county to engage in a vendor that is charging us 3 times of what the price should be. And then the other has been found of stuff like this.
Legislators, if you need to speak with me, I'm online.
Oh.
This is Jody Franzese. I'm sorry.
Yes. Hi, Jody. How are you?
I'm good. Minority Leader, how are you?
Good. We were just going through the back. I think we resolved it, but I'm glad you hear it nonetheless. We were just going through the backup to try to figure out what the vendor for this particular contract, and I'm sorry, just to catch you up to speed, where we're talking about the Rockland Bakery contract. It's item A19-22.
Yes.
And we were taking a look at what was provided in the backup by the vendor versus in terms of their disclosure in regards to some of their hiring practices in the year 2017 versus what they disclosed versus what you uncovered. And from what we were able to resolve or understand that what you uncovered was a tremendous amount more, and it dived in a lot deeper than what they actually disclosed. Would that be your recollection as well?
Yes, Minority Leader, that's correct. The vendor did disclose the investigation, but did not provide any specific details, and they didn't provide the consent decree.
And did not provide the consent decree. Okay. Mr. Cleary, is there a threshold of when we're trying to do business with a particular vendor or client of them, I guess, getting around the fact that they technically told us, but they didn't tell us everything, to be able to restart the process? Because, I mean, I guess let me put it this way. If you had known what because obviously we're further along in the process, and what the IG has uncovered, if we had known that, or maybe you did know that, I don't know, but if we had known that, would we have still gone forward with presenting this contract to the legislature today? Because that would kind of answer my questions in regards to before.
Well, I think the answer is we're here today and we did present it. When we see anything about, let me.
You don't have to give me a political speak.
Let me explain.
Let me say it again. I want to be very clear because I don't want to like mix words. If this was disclosed to you at the time that they were bidding on the contract, and I'm not asking, I know that's not the way it's done, but if we had known that we were getting ready to potentially award a contract to an entity that had discriminated against Black and Asian women, would this contract still find its way today to the legislature?
So when we conduct a solicitation that's a bid, we're obligated, if we're going to award the bid, to bid to the lowest responsible bidder. They were responsive. There was not found to be a justification for finding them non-responsible, which makes them the lowest responsible bidder. So we either would be awarding to this vendor or we would not be awarding to anybody. We would cancel the solicitation and have to resolicit it. Now, whenever, like in this case, we get a vague response on an investigation question or some other significant adverse information, we ask for details. We ask for additional information before we make a decision about whether we're moving it along. We don't generally propose an award to a vendor that can't answer the questions to a degree of sufficiency, that we understand where we are and there's some evidence that they're doing the right thing now, right? And because doing the right thing now may not in all cases.
Yes, they're doing the right thing now, but at the same time, you got to keep in mind because they got caught. You have to. That's a very clear. You have to.
I know.
Okay.
Every procurement is a project. Every procurement is unique and has its own specific issues, and this one has its specific issues. So I can't give you a general blanket statement about how we handle these cases because every case is a little different. And this one is different. They should have given us more information. I wish they didn't have this issue in the first place. I wish none of our vendors had any integrity issues, but it happens frequently enough, as you know.
So it's possible in the future, entities that have integrity issues, whether it's regards to discrimination or God knows what else, they could find their way to the legislature. There's no morality clause.
The lines that we look for are things like, are they hiding it? And in this case, they weren't as disclosing as they could have been, but they did not hide it. They stated that there was this issue. So we didn't have to go, they didn't say there was some investigation years ago by somebody. They told us what the investigation was, and we were able to fill in those blanks pretty quickly, right?
Well, I mean,
they also...
Mr. Cleary, they are hiding it.
They also obtained a letter from the investigating authority stating that they're in good standing. That matters. I will take the investigating authority's statement much more quickly than I'll take the vendor's word for it. So if a vendor has an investigation, we know that there are penalties assessed, and then they're just saying, just take our word for it, we paid the fine, we're all good, everything's on track, nothing to see here. That we're not going to accept, right?
But if they had the good standing letter, and
Yes.
they're doing such a great job, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, then why wouldn't they mention that they discriminated against certain people when they wrote it in their backup? Like, to me, that tells me they're hiding it. Wouldn't it to you? All they said was that the suit was because we hired walk-in as our hiring practice.
Well,
that to me means that's not. They don't mention discrimination in there. They don't mention anything about discrimination in there. They said we hired a consultant. That's almost like, okay, we hire people that walk into our bakery versus people that apply online. I mean,
well, it
to
was
me,
an investigation, so you knew that there was something going on there, whatever that particular issue was. This is why we asked for details.
But this
and this is why
statement-
we review those details before we present the contract.
But this statement, it clearly hides the fact that it doesn't mention anything about the U.S. Department of Labor investigating allegations regarding Rockland. Doesn't mention anything about them discriminating against female, Black, and Asian applicants. Doesn't mention any of that. It just says, oh, we had a lawsuit because we hire walk-ins, guys that come into the bakery, or ladies that come into the bakery. We were hiring them before we were hiring anyone else. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, it was an investigation.
But what I'm
That's
trying to
a
say
little
is that doesn't pale in comparison to what actually happened. I mean, I think you have right to throw this out just based on that alone.
Well, it's not.
Unless you want to do this contract.
I don't believe that a finding of non-responsibility in this case would be upheld, given the circumstances.
How so?
Because they have documented evidence that they are taking corrective actions as obligated by the authority.
So them not fully disclosing everything on their disclosure does not eliminate them.
If they had given us a vague statement and then stonewalled and refused to give us more information about the circumstances and said there's nothing to see here, that would be a reason to find them non-responsible. We have a reasonable interest in understanding those circumstances. There's a reason we asked the question in the first place. But when a vendor...
You keep saying you asked the question. Your office did the investigation to discover this stuff, or Mr. Franchi's
we asked for additional information from the vendor when we saw their answer on the disclosure form.
So you uncovered the $850,000 and the allegations that were made by
I don't recall the timeline. I remember that we did ask questions about it. I don't remember when the answers were given. It may have been that the vendor, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what that timeline is. I'd have to look.
Okay, I got it. I don't know. I'm spinning around here. I don't know anything else. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Cleary.
Legislator Bino.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Mr. Cleary? Dragged you back in. So I have a couple of questions. When did we start using Rockland as a vendor?
I am not aware of that. My understanding is it's been several years.
Several years. So in 2017, they were our vendor?
I believe so. They're the current contract vendor.
So when this issue presented itself and required them to go under corrective action, they were our vendor?
Again, I would have to check the timeline to see how that works.
Is there anything in our contracts that require individuals who are under contract with the county who are then involved in this type of action? But I'm sorry. That's my ADHD. I can't concentrate. I apologize. So is there anything in the contract that requires a vendor to inform the county when they are when they're being investigated for these type of allegations, or when there is an actual resolve?
I don't recall if there's language in the contract itself.
I would think there should be, right?
It's a reasonable obligation. Our policy advises that vendors should notify us when there are material changes in their disclosures.
Right. So I would say, you know, we seem to be celebrating them for, you know, indicating, not necessarily disclosing, indicating that there may have been a problem. But I would argue that they had a responsibility to inform us of that well beyond this disclosure, well beyond even responding to this bid when they were under the current contract. They had a responsibility.
Well, I don't know what happened in the past.
Well,
I don't recall.
that's not the past. That's so. It happened in 2017, right? Or some timeline. They go into a corrective action sometime in that period. Were you here in 2017?
I was.
Were you made aware that there was a material change?
I do not recall. I don't know.
Was anybody that is attached to
this is the first time
this?
that I recall hearing of this issue.
Okay, so then I would say that
they've forgotten, though.
I would say that they were in violation of their contract in 2017.
Well, as I said, I don't
Beyond-
know. I don't know
beyond-
that the
beyond the
contract
disclosure.
obligates that.
Say again?
I don't know that the contract obligates.
You said that there is a responsibility for notifying us for a material change in their disclosure.
Well, I said that our current policy directs vendors to advise us. I don't know when that was included in the policy. I don't know how that timeline lines up with this set of circumstances. To your point, it would have been better for the vendor to tell us at some point between then and now.
So it's lost on me while we're celebrating that they may have indicated and not even fully disclosed. They just indicated there was a problem, didn't fully disclose it, and they failed to do so at really what would have been the appropriate time was when they were in contract. Because more likely than not, they took our tax-paying dollars and utilized them to hire individuals in violation of federal law. That's what I'm hearing from where I'm sitting here. So we're going to reward them by extending a contract to them yet a second time, or a third time, or fourth time. I don't know how long we've been in contract with them, but it leaves me to ponder that question. And so I don't know why we would be here again. I don't want to belabor the point, but I think, you know, Minority Leader hit the point dead on and leaves us to question whether this is something that we should be engaging in yet a second time or a third time with them. I'm going to ask you, are they currently providing these breads and rolls at the current cost?
I don't know what the current contract cost is as it compares to this.
And can you tell me, and can you define what is, okay, let me ask you this. What are the requirements, let me ask this first. What are the requirements under this contract in terms of security for individuals that would work at this plant?
I'm not aware of those programmatic requirements. Perhaps the department can answer that question.
Because you mentioned that New York City's requirements might be a little more stringent than what we require here at the county.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of New York City and Rikers Island, which I'm familiar with that particular specification. And
that's what I'm trying to find out what our specifications are.
This specification does not, to my eye, appear to be as picayune as the one that New York City uses.
I'd love to know what that is, because I'm wondering whether hiring walk-ins is something that we should be allowing this vendor to do, considering all of the security parameters that should be in place regarding breads and rolls coming into the correctional facility. What does hiring walk-ins, what is that definition? What is the process for that?
So the department's going to have to review that. We have the bid here. I don't see language in the bid. The department has, as I understand it, a policy of background check, but they would have to confirm that and advise.
And so this always leaves me a question as to whether we're even monitoring contracts periodically throughout the year, throughout the years, especially these multi-year contracts, to determine whether people are in compliance. And it just behooves me that we have all of these private vendors and in some cases outsourced public services that go out to private entities, and I don't feel like we do enough contract monitoring. And I really would like to see the county turn the corner on that. Perhaps we would have picked up on something like this a lot earlier on. It definitely, saddens me to know that county funds were used in a way to discriminate against folks during a contract, and that we would even consider them at this point. But the mere fact that perhaps most of our county money was used in a real unjust way doesn't make me really confident in this contract or convinced, and I'm gonna let you know I can't support it in the immediate, especially since I don't have an answer as to whether they're even adhering to what our security requirements would be, especially when we don't know what they are. Thank you.
I have some questions. Mr. Cleary, term has been used, consent decree or consent agreement. What is it that they are operating under? Do you know?
My recollection is a consent agreement. I would have to pull the document to be able to read it to you directly.
Okay. That means charges were filed by the Department of Labor, but there was no adjudication. Was this adjudicated, or was it resolved by means of an agreement?
I believe it was resolved by an agreement. There are very specific recommendations in the document, requirements, not recommendations, requirements to revise their practices and report on their progress and what have you.
Did you yourself speak to Rockland Bakery or someone else from the administration?
There was some discussion and some email.
Okay. Did they respond to your emails? Were they resisting providing information to you?
They weren't resisting. They at first didn't understand what I was asking. So there's a little bit of back and forth. But they, when asked directly for the consent agreement, they provided the consent agreement. And then I asked to follow up in that regard, and they provided an additional document. The statement from the Department of Labor was provided with the consent agreement. I hadn't asked for that specifically, but that was helpful. Okay. So I didn't get the impression they were hiding anything or trying not to answer the questions.
When was the Department of Labor's statement dated? Was that something that they provided in relation to this, or was it something that the Department of Labor had simply provided Rockland Bakery for their business operation?
Well, it was recent, but it was implemented recently as well. The agreement was earlier this year. So it very well may have been that they requested that letter from them this summer, but it had only, I think, been implemented in the spring anyway.
Okay. Do you know if the prices are fixed in this contract for the term? I mean, there was some concern about them coming in and then later on boosting up their prices.
Prices are firm for a year, which is typical of the purchasing blanket purchase contracts. Vendors may request a price increase, but any price increase would have to be documented and justified and found to be reasonable. Are you aware of previous price adjustments for them?
So what if the county doesn't agree with their price increases? Can the county? It's
at our discretion.
Can the county?
Now, obviously, if a vendor comes forward and says we absolutely need a price adjustment, and here's the manufacturer's data, and we've convinced, we believe that we have the right to that price adjustment, and it's reasonably in line with the producer price index and other objective information, and then we say no, then we may have a contract dispute, obviously, to deal with. But generally speaking, if it's fair and reasonable, we'll work with them.
The term was used before that the other bidder was a small business. Is that accurate?
Was it? Local. Was it on the staff summary indicated? So it's they're a small business? They indicated they were a small business.
Okay. Ms. Colasordo, do you want to step up also? Was there any concern that because they were a small business and the type of goods that had to be provided, the specific requirements of the jail, was there any concern about the small business being able to meet the requirements?
They didn't take any exceptions to the specifications, so in that case, they can do all that's required that's in our bid. Their pricing just was significantly higher, and as Robert stated, we award to the lowest responsible bidder. And pricing-wise, they were not there.
Okay. Question for the Inspector General. In terms of your communications with Rockland Bakery, were they responsive to your requests? Jody, are you there?
I'm sorry, Presiding Officer. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. I mean, earlier it was said that your office uncovered the information. Where did you get the information about this history from? Did it come directly from Rockland Bakery or somewhere else?
Oh, no. We did our own independent review and found that information and then provided it to the Chief Procurement and Compliance Officer.
So when you did your own investigation, did that involve communications with Rockland Bakery or something else?
No. We actually just we did an external. We got from external sources. We had information. We reached out. Well, actually, I'm sorry. We reviewed the conciliation agreement and found the press release.
Okay. Did you have any communications with Rockland Bakery?
No, we did not communicate with the vendor.
Okay. Now, this is obviously before us, and usually when the Inspector General tells us to hold something, we hold it. Did you make any recommendation with respect to this contract?
We did not make any recommendation to hold this contract, but when we found the information regarding the Department of Labor issue, we felt that it was significant enough to provide it to the legislature so that the legislature could make an informed decision regarding this contract.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Rockland Bakery is there now, correct?
Yes,
Providing that service.
that's my understanding.
So I'm having difficulty understanding what our options are here. So would we, I mean, if we were going to stop this contract from going forward, do we throw them out of the jail? I mean, tell me what our options are here.
Well, whether we throw them out of whether we cancel their contract, take action to cancel their contract now, is a separate question than whether we go forward with the new contract, obviously. In the event the contract were declined, we might have to rebid it. The jail cannot be without a source. We do not have an ability to immediately bring another vendor in unless we declare an emergency. Normally, if a bid was not awarded and we had to rebid it, we would extend the existing contract at the agreement concurrence of the vendor. That would not necessarily be very logical in light of not awarding the bid, which puts us in a difficult position. We would have to do a quick bid as quick as possible to get a new vendor in, I think we'd have to hold our nose and live with them until we got a vendor in place, whether for a short period or a longer period.
Now, you said before there's not a good number of vendors capable.
We only got 2 bids on this. In my experience, it's usually 2 or 3, something like that. There's just not a lot of vendors out there that do this, that want to sell to jails, as I said. And again, if there were, in the normal terms of how we conduct our procurements, we would not find them non-responsible for this. Yeah, we would keep an eye on them. Right. Obviously, we're going to monitor the situation now that it's come to light. But, you know, we would not have presented a contract if we felt that they were a non-responsible vendor.
Would there be anything that would prevent them from, if you rebid it, from them bidding?
No.
They could bid again?
No, there would be no prohibition on submitting a bid.
So the other bidder, as you said, is substantially more.
That's right.
So if you somehow were to take Rockland Bakery out of the equation, then you're paying more.
That would be likely.
Right. The folks from the jail who are here, is there any issue with Rockland, the quality of Rockland Bakery's goods? I mean, the quality of the bread that they're providing, is it up to their standards?
Ken Hamill, Food Service Director of the Nassau County Jail. No, we've had no problems, no issues with Rockland. They're always provide product on time. There's never been any issue with them at all. And like they said, we only have 2 vendors that bid it. Right. So if we don't have Rockland, we have the other vendor, which is 3 times, 4 times the amount of money that we would be spending right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to mention, we haven't vetted the second vendor. So we don't know that they have the capacity and what have you. They submitted a bid, the bid was responsive, but we haven't reviewed them.
Right. Okay. Minority Leader, you had a question?
Just one follow-up for Mr. Cleary. Ms. Cleary, you had mentioned, I guess, some of the difficulties in rebidding the contract. But I do remember a couple months ago, it was something related to Dover, where we were able to rebid that particular contract pretty quickly. Is my memory failing me, or we were able to turn that bid around in a 3-week time frame or a month time frame?
I think that was a proposal solicitation, but yes, that was done on an expedited basis. It still took several months.
Okay. And this couldn't it be done on the same expedited basis?
I would imagine that a bid could be solicited, yes, in a matter of a few months.
Okay. I mean, obviously you did your due diligence in speaking to the department. I'm speaking to Rockland. But I also just want to credit Jody Franchise and her group because I think a lot of the information that at least we found out we found out through the Nassau County Inspector General. So I know she doesn't do it for the acknowledgement, but I want to thank her for doing that and being able to get the legislature what it needed to be able to make a decision. Ms. Cleary, I do want to ask you a more direct question before I summarize or wrap up. Is in the disclosure form, question 15, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It says, in the past 5 years, has this business or any of its owners or officers or any other affiliated business had any sanction imposed as a result of judicial or administrative proceedings with respect to any professional license held? This was directed towards Rockland. Their response was no. Do you feel that is an honest response in light of the fact that they had to pay $850,000 to the U.S. Department of Labor?
Well, that particular question, we had this on another contract some time ago. That particular question specifically relates to a professional license, and I don't believe that this particular violation relates to a professional license.
But there should be some more clarity. Either way, there is a box they should clarify. I mean, the way I interpret this question, if someone asked me if any other affiliate business or any sanction imposed, they clearly had a sanction imposed.
They did have sanctions imposed. Yes, that's true. But they did also.
So they just checked the box no, and didn't even bother to mention anything about the $850,000.
But they did, well, because that $850,000 fine wasn't related to a professional license, as I understand it. They did disclose the investigation. Yes, they should have provided additional, we would have preferred that they provide additional information with that disclosure. We were able to track down the rest of it pretty easily, obviously. And we weren't going to move it forward again with a vague answer, without any clarification on what we're getting into. I don't see any problem with them answering no on question 15 when the investigation has been disclosed in the proper question, and obviously we're fully aware of what the circumstances were.
So you just chalk it up as they answered it honestly based off the fact that it was with respect to a professional license being held.
Legally, that's my understanding of it. I'm not a lawyer, but that is how that has been interpreted in the past in other cases, and I think that's what that's about.
And we have no concern in regards to their being forthright with the county of never disclosing the $850,000.
I would have been much more concerned if they had answered no on question 13 on the investigations question, and then we had to find it. That is a much bigger red flag for me when a vendor sends in a clean set of disclosures and then you search them on Google and the first thing that pops up is an investigation. That's a flag for me. In this case, they disclosed it.
So, Mr. Cleary, I just want to make sure. I don't want to belabor this, and I want to thank my colleagues. They've been very patient during this process. But when it says that in respect to a professional license being held, meaning was the sanction in a result of them losing their license, or because they do have a food processing license. I had counsel look it up for me with the New York State Department. I'm sorry, with the federal New York State Department of, my eyes are going really bad. Agriculture. Oh my God, I can't see a thing. Jesus, agriculture and markets. So they do have a license. You're saying the license wasn't suspended or revoked, and that's the reason why they're able to put no, because they clearly do. There are an entity that has a license with
I'm sure they do. The wording of the question relates the sanctions specifically to the professional license.
Oh,
and that wasn't the issue here.
No, it's not. Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's the issue. I mean, we would want to know. I guess what I'm driving at, and I'm going to end with this. We need to know if an entity had to pay any amount of sanctions towards a U.S. department. We would want to know that. And if our forms don't allow that, then we have to fix our forms. Because to me, the fact that they paid out $850,000 to a U.S. department, there's no way this is, in all these questions, it's not being, they could skirt around it and hope that nobody knows. And thankfully the IG was able to uncover it, but we never would have known. Okay, that's all I have. I would request, Presiding Officer, if all the questions is done, that we table this matter.
I would take 5 minutes. right, the committee is back in session. You want to make a motion?
Sure. Thank you. At the present time, based on what was heard by the legislative body, I'm going to make a motion to table this matter.
We need a second by legislator Bino. All in favor of tabling signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion fails. We received testimony that there is no legal basis to declare Rockland Bakery not a responsible bidder. We don't have much in the way of options here, and action that I think that is being suggested here is going to A, cost more money, and B, could potentially result in a lawsuit against this county because, going back to the beginning, there's no legal basis to declare this vendor not a responsible bidder. So we are going to vote to pass this along.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. Any other debate or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
All right, passes by a vote of 4-3 on this item only. So then we'll go on to the next correctional center item, which is A34 with Intellitech Corporation. Before everybody leaves. Okay.
Good afternoon, Joe Jacovina, Deputy Commissioner, Information Technology. A3422 Intellitech Jail application. This is to authorize and award a purchase order for the annual maintenance of the Intellitech Jail application referred to as IMAX for the term of August 10th, 2022 through August 9th, 2023. The maximum amount authorized under this purchase order is $194,500.
Okay, any questions? I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next two are with Information Technology. Oracle America, Inc. is contract E101.
Joe Jacovina, E10122 Oracle America, Inc. This amendment will authorize the increase of the contract ceiling by $557,781.05 to support the Enterprise Resource Planning Solutions software, which we refer to as PeopleSoft. This is the county's payroll time and leave application that replaced NORS in 2020. The ceiling increase will allow the support of the software through May 31st, 2024. We are requesting to encumber $145,000 at this time. The new maximum ceiling is $4,300,000.
Question I had was, are you planning to do a new RFP in 2024?
For the PeopleSoft application?
Yeah.
No, it is not in our plans.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? No? Let's go on to the next contract, which is E106 with InSum Solutions.
E106 2022 InSum Solutions Corporation. This amendment is to authorize an increase of the maximum amount of the contract with InSum Solutions Corporations by $750,000. The new maximum amount will be $2,250,000. The amendment will also encumber $500,000 upon execution. InSum provides Oracle Apex consulting services to Nassau County IT Department. Services include Apex infrastructure upgrades, training IT staff, building applications to reduce paper, eliminate labor-intensive processes. Among the projects the Apex team is currently working on with InSum is working on the Community Revitalization Projects Tracker, as well as streamlining the production of 1099 income tax forms.
Okay.
Any questions?
That's my line. Any questions?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Hearing none. Thank you, Joe. I think we're good.
Thank you.
Public Works contracts. First one is A22, Syosset Truck Sales.
Ken Arnold, Public Works. A22 is a contract for original equipment manufacturer parts for trucks. We had 6 people viewed, 2 bids. Syosset Truck was selected as the vendor. The contract cap is $720,000.
Okay. Any questions? Let's go on to A23, J&C Ice Tech.
So A23 is the replacement of the ice cutting machine for our ice skating rinks. We had 2 bids. JC was the selected vendor. The number 1 bidder did not meet the bid specifications. Their machine would not allow us to do an ice surface without refilling the water tank, which would delay our openings of our rinks.
Okay. Is this a Zamboni machine?
Zamboni is actually a name of a company. That's why we don't use that term.
Okay, so it's resurfacing.
It's the Zamboni machine, yeah. It's just like Kleenex, right?
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Yes. He's not on the committee.
Ken, just a quick question. We noticed in the backup that the funding project line, and you might have had discussions with Michelle about
Yes.
this, is out of the road maintenance equipment replacement. Why would a machine like this come out of that budget line?
We're maintaining it for them, so it's running through the road maintenance shop. It wasn't a huge expense, and it's under the same PPU, the same criteria, so we were able to fit it into our program, so we took it on for them.
All right, I just want to make sure, because, I get constituents that come here about road stuff all the time.
It's not impacting what I need to buy for roads.
Gotcha. Okay, that's the most important thing. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Why don't we take the next several together? They're all involving funding for enforcement of Stop DWI. We have the Incorporated Village of Garden City, Old Westbury, Rockville Center, as well as the Port Washington Police Department and the cities of Long Beach and Glen Cove.
Yeah, so all these contracts, E93 through 97, are related to funding we provide for enforcement of DWI to the various departments that you listed. The funding is a pass-through from enforcement funding that we receive through New York State, that the Traffic Safety Board gets, and they're the responsible party for allocating these funds.
So it actually goes to E98, which is Glen Cove.
E98 too, I'm sorry. Yep, that was the next page. Sorry.
Okay. Any questions on this? All right. Let's do E100, Lero.
Okay, so E100 is a contract amendment to increase the funding for our civil site on-call construction management contract. This is to add additional $1.5 million to a contract cap of $5 million.
Okay, any questions? No. E103, H2M.
E103 is the contract amendment to add funding and time for H2M, who's the design consultant for work at the Glen Cove Sewage Treatment Plant. The construction was delayed by COVID, and we need to increase funds of $32,000 and 1 year of service time for their support during construction activities.
All right, any questions? Nope. All right, last one we have for you is E105, Lockwood Kessler.
So E105 is similar to E100. It's an amendment for LKB for contract CM services for civil site work. Again, it adds additional $1.5 million.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Ken? No, we're good. So we're now going to call for a vote on the remaining contracts, including E99, E104, A34, E101, E106, A22, A23, E93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, E100, E103, and E105. Any further debate or discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? They carry unanimously, and we'll put the Rules Committee in recess. Public safety is next.
All right, good afternoon. At this time, I will call the Public Safety Committee to order. Are we all here? All right. That's okay. And I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Public Safety roll call. Legislator Debbie Muley. Legislator Sheila Bino. Ranking Member Delia Dirigi-Witten. Legislator John Ferretti. Legislator Mazi Palip.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Stephen Rhodes. Chairwoman Denise Ford. We have a quorum, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay. There are 4 items on the agenda today, which are clerk item numbers 272-22, 273-22, 274-22, and 279-22. Clerk item number 272-22 is an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with the district attorney. May I have a motion? Moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Dirigi-Witten. The item is before us. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman, Legislators Dennis McDermott, Assistant District Attorney. This is a supplemental appropriation. A grant was awarded to the Nassau County District Attorney's Office for their Victim Assistance Program in the amount of $1.355 million. It is mostly used for the salaries of the crime victim advocates.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or debate from the, any public comment? All right, I see none. Okay, all those in favor of passing this item, please signify by saying aye. And opposed? The item passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Clerk item number 273-22 is an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with the crime victim advocate. May I have a motion? Okay, this is different. Okay. All right. Seconded by Legislator Ferretti. Okay. All right, so far the item is moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Ferretti. I'm sorry, let me get that right. And the item is before us. Is there anyone here from the administration? Good afternoon. Yeah.
Janine Deal, I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Crime Victim Advocate. I'm presenting item 273-22. We are respectively requesting the approval of a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $505,183.68 in funds received from the New York State Office of Victim Services Victims of Crime Act grant. This funding is to enhance the existing support services provided by the Office of Crime Victim Advocate that meet the immediate and long-term needs of victims and witnesses of crime in Nassau County.
Thank you. Any debate or discussion? Yes, Legislator Millay.
Hi, I have a question. So do these two grants work in tandem with each other, or are they different offices? Can you help me to understand?
It is the same grant, but they are mutually exclusive to each respective office.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any public comment? Yes, come on up, please.
Good afternoon, Mita J. Meriday. I'm definitely in support of this grant. It's an unfortunate scenario that we do have to provide, but I'm just curious as to what types of recommendations are presented, I guess at the end of the year, with regard to the efforts to actually reduce the number of crime victims that we have, in terms of any type of research or statistics that could be incorporated into possibly police enforcement, community outreach, and support services. So I think we need to start looking at where we can go at the long term with this type of situation so that we can reduce the rate of attacks that are happening on, various constituencies, ethnic groups, et cetera, with the rise in divisiveness that we're currently experiencing. So just hopeful that we're looking at that type of reporting, and whoever may be getting that information, and all of you should be getting access to that information and any recommendations from that department or agency that's monitoring that, because public comment is something that clearly I don't take lightly, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like the comments from the public or the impacted communities seems to be getting across in the types of legislation and resources that could be most beneficial for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and it is something that we should note and look to see, because it's important to reduce crime, less victims. All right, thank you. All those in favor of passing this item, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
The item passes unanimously. Thank you. Clerk, item number 274-22 is an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with the Traffic Safety Board. May I have a motion? Moved by Legislator Bino, seconded by Legislator Millet. The item is before us. Who is here from the administration to speak on this item?
Good afternoon, Ken Arnold, Public Works. So 274 is a supplemental appropriation to increase funding associated with a change in the VTL where they added a surcharge to parking violations associated with handicap parking.
So this would be that, all right, so then we're gonna increase the fee by $30. Would this be certain types of park, like?
Well, the VTL would, the state put a $30 increase on those violations, and it's a pass-through of that $30. Half goes to physically challenged, half goes to the Traffic Safety Board, and this supplemental is associated with the Traffic Safety Board piece, which my department manages, so we're just increasing our money that we'll receive is associated with that.
But it'll be a pass-through.
Yes, and then we turn around and we program it with education, whatever we end up doing with the funding.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any debate or discussion? Any public comment? All right, I see none. All those in favor of passing this item, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Clerk, item number 279-22 is an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with the medical examiner's office. May I have a motion? Moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Pelip. The item is before us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Karen Dooling, Assistant Director, Crime Lab. There are two grants before you. The first is a federal NIJ grant passed through New York State, no match in the amount of $54,656. Funding is used for overtime to work cases associated with the opioid crisis, and also general lab funding to support our laboratory information management system for upgrades and maintenance. The second grant before you is New York State DCJS grant, $504,885. It's a no match, and this is for overtime for the rest of the disciplines, equipment, supplies, and instrument maintenance contracts and calibrations to support lab casework and our quality control program.
Want to go on this? Tell us about the second one as well, or?
Oh, that was I went through the two of them.
The two of them, I'm sorry, I was
Yes, no
distracted.
problem.
But we have a question from Legislator Georgie Whitten.
Sure.
Hi, I was just wondering what the status of the lab is. Where are you today?
So the status of the lab is we currently have all of our disciplines up and running. We have chemistry controlled substance, biology, which is DNA, firearms, which we were recently accredited in this year, is now up and running, and also latent prints. So the lab is doing well. There's basically no more outsourcing to NMS unless it's a specific type of case that are far and few between that the lab doesn't do analysis on because it wouldn't be cost effective to validate and keep that particular technique online.
Okay, so that's great. So basically all of the different specialties are now being addressed in-house?
Yes,
Other
except
than
for
an exceptional...
except for trace analysis.
All right, that's good news. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, that was, God, do you want to ask? Or, okay, can you hold on for 1 second? So what would you say the caseload would be? Do you feel that you're adequately, as far as your employees and your budget?
So I would imagine like any other department in the county, we certainly could use more staffing. Budget, right now we're doing fairly well and managing our budget and managing to get by. Staffing, we could definitely use some staffing.
The turnaround is also adequate, or?
Turnaround times are increasing because we have seen a large increase in the number of cases coming into the laboratory. So about halfway through the year, this year, we saw as many items submitted as all of last year.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Good.
Wow, that hello?
Hi.
Hi. So you're saying that the numbers have increased significantly. And
Yes.
in what areas are you finding the higher rates?
Well, so our drug caseload has increased significantly. We just took on firearms, so that has increased our workload considerably, and we are getting more criminal possession of weapons cases, CPW cases, which has also increased our caseload.
Huh. So what role do you play in criminal possession of firearms? The fingerprints, the latent fingerprints?
Latent prints,
Okay.
and sometimes DNA analysis.
Okay. And then the increase in drugs, it's fentanyl or?
The increase in drugs is drugs.
Period.
The drug world is always,
Just
increasing. New types of drug evidence, opioids, fentanyl.
Okay, that goes along with the, unfortunately, with the trend that we've been
Yes.
seeing and hearing about.
Yes, true.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
I would hope we did receive money from the opioid settlement, and I wonder if there's a way to use some of that for our lab. I mean, I would love to see. I don't know if there's a way to research that, but it's just something. As a legislator, I'm not even asking you directly, but I think it's something that the county should look into. If we could fund you directly to help you with that money, I think it'd be money well spent.
Thank you.
Do the employees that work there, like, the lab technicians, I'm sorry that I don't know the actual title, do they have specialties, like one's like trained just to do firearms, one's just to do drugs, or is it that any lab technician can work on any type of discipline?
So you're correct the way you stated it the first time. It's not like you see on TV, CSI. One person doesn't do all those specialties. If you're a firearms examiner, that's your specialty. If you're a biologist, then that's your specialty. So there really is no cross-discipline interaction, and that's because of our accreditation standards. We spend a lot of time making sure people are competent in those disciplines, but they also have to take proficiency tests, and there are all sorts of other requirements to allow them to do work in those particular disciplines.
And do you know offhand, do you have an active list that you can, from a test, that you can hire the people because I'm wondering, what is the age of a lot of the lab technicians? Are any of them close to retirement or anything? I know this is a budget question, but I'm curious.
Yeah, so we, our title series are forensic scientists. We hire people as trainees, and the scientist position goes from a trainee all the way up to a forensic scientist 4, who's usually the supervisor and the technical lead of the discipline. The titles are non-competitive, and you know, we get lots of applicants, you know, Nassau County residents, and they're generally individuals that have just graduated from college or have a master's, have to have a science degree, and depending on the discipline, the requirements are specific per discipline. You need certain courses for biology, certain things for chemistry, but there are a lot of nice programs, nice forensic programs, even within Nassau County itself. CW Post has a great program, and Hofstra has a great forensics program.
I'm glad to hear that. All right, Legislator Millay?
Yeah, you mentioned, I think it was firearms. Has that just come online? Is that why there's an increase in the number of cases? Because you've taken on this discipline, and so that has caused the number of cases to increase? Did I understand that correctly?
So we did increase our caseload partially because of firearms, but our all of our other disciplines have seen an increase in caseload, especially in the chemistry section.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anyone else? All right, any public comment? I see none. All those in favor of passing this item, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. And just to let everyone know, it was passed by Legislator Rose, because I don't think I spoke into the mic, and it was seconded by Legislator Pelip, just in case so that we have it on record and everybody knows. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith. And thank you very much. Okay? All right. There is no other business in front of this committee. May I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Giorgi Whitten. All those in favor? All right. This committee is now adjourned. Thank you. Next up is Public Works.
Okay, at this time, I'll call the Public Works Committee to order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Chairman. Roll call. Legislator Carrier Solage.
Here.
Legislator Arnold Drucker. Ranking Member Sheila Bino. Legislator James Kennedy.
Here.
Substituting for Laura Schaefer is Legislator Rose Walker.
Here.
Vice Chairman John Giuffre.
Here.
And Chairman C. William Gaylord III.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. So there are 4 items on the agenda today, which are clerk items number 266-22, 275-22, 280-22, and 283-22. Clerk item number 266-22 is a resolution approving a federal aid project administered by the New York State Department of Transportation, authorizing the County of Nassau to participate in the non-federal share of the cost of construction and in the cost of construction supervision and inspection of the project, and authorizing the county executive of the County of Nassau to execute an agreement on behalf of the county with the New York State Department of Transportation for the performance of such work for the project and for participation by the county in the non-federal share of the cost of the project, which is identified as PIN 0761.59 for the management enhancement application. I have a motion. Moved by Legislator Giuffre, seconded by Legislator Solage. The item's before us. I see we have Commissioner Arnold at the podium to speak about this item.
Good afternoon, Ken Arnold. Yes, item 26622 is a New York State master agreement that provides 80% funding or $1 million for the traffic management enhancement application. This application is a web-based database that we use to track signal issues, maintenance, and inventory.
And just out of curiosity, the 20% that's remaining is funded by the state?
No, that's the 20% is funded by capital.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, thank you. Is there any debate or discussion? Any public comment? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. Clerk item number 275-22 is an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with public works. May I have a motion? Moved by Legislator Walker, seconded by Legislator Drucker. The item is before us. Commissioner Arnold, all yours.
Okay, so 27522 is a supplemental appropriation from the Federal Transit Administration for our annual grant for 2023 associated with the Nice Bus. The grant is for $11.5 million, and that will be used for rolling stock, capital needs, and capitalized maintenance.
That's all for the bus, the Nice Bus system, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
It's 80% of the total funding that we utilize for that program. 10% is from the state, which is an item later on, and the remaining 10% is county capital.
Got it. Okay, any debate or discussion? Any public comment? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. Clerk item 280-22 is a resolution authorizing the County of Nassau to participate in a transportation project providing for the restriping of various county roads under capital project number H62I53-I4G, and that's PIN number 0761.67, and authorizing the county executive of the County of Nassau to execute the agreement on behalf of the county with the New York State Department of Transportation for the advancement of said aid for transportation projects in Nassau County. May I have a motion? Moved by Legislator Kennedy, seconded by Legislator Bino. The item's before us.
Okay, so item 280-22 is another New York State master agreement. This is for pavement markings, what we call Phase 14. It's providing the federal share of $1 million. This is our normal pavement marking funds we receive as part of from the TIP, which is the New York State Transportation Improvement Plan.
So the question for you, Commissioner Arnold, the reimbursable amount is $1 million or 3.2? I saw something in the backup about 3.2 million.
We are, let me double check.
I think the staff summary says 1 million, but I believe the backup may show a little bit
Let me double check the backup then, because I only looked at the staff summary.
Gotcha.
You are correct. So we're getting 3.2 million. The whole project's worth 4 million.
All right, you'll provide us with some updated information?
Yeah,
regarding it?
I know why the staff, yeah, the contract itself is the lead document, so.
Okay, very good, very good. Any debate or discussion? Any public comment? Ms. Maraday?
Yes, good afternoon, Mita J. Maraday. With regard to this contract and I guess the previous two, my concern and my ongoing request in terms of ensuring that there is diversity and inclusion with these projects that are getting state and more than likely federal funding, that we are making sure that we are making every effort, not just the basic or baseline, every effort to be inclusive of service-disabled veterans, minority women, et cetera, in these projects, and that the projects themselves represent a cross-section of the county, particularly when we're talking about transportation, when we have so many residents who depend on transportation. And I don't know the previous issue with the previous resolution that it pertains to buses. I don't know if it's maintaining the current level of buses, but I don't know if there's consideration for additional buses and reinstating some bus lines for many of our seniors as well as veterans who continue to have issues with transportation. So the diversity, the inclusion, and making sure that the transportation funds are equitable throughout the county is my request. Thank you.
All very good points. Appreciate that, Ms. Maraday. Commissioner Arnold, do you want to address? Sorry.
Well, in relation to the master agreements, New York State requires DBE goals for all their project funding, and the department works with them to meet those goals.
Okay. All right. And I think, Ms. Maraday, on your comment about the buses, it's not, the funding of that $11.5 million was not to increase the number of lines, but to replace the capital items, the fleet, the vehicles themselves, as well as the facility upgrade and whatnot. Am I
That's correct.
Correct on that?
That's correct.
All right. Any other public comment? Oh, sure, Legislator Walker.
With regard to the fleet themselves, do we have any other information about all those buses that were on fire and destroyed? Are they buses that were obsolete already?
Those buses had completed their useful life in excess of 20 years. They were there to be salvaged and sold. And I don't know the extent of the investigation.
Okay, right. But they were already buses that we had taken completely out of
yes,
service.
they were out of service buses.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to verify that. Okay, thank you.
Back to 280-22. Oh, excuse me, Legislator Giuffre. Go ahead, it's all yours. We didn't vote on this one. Okay, hang on for a second. We're going to take the vote then on 280-22. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. Go ahead, Legislator Giuffre. He'd just like to make a comment.
Sure. Ken, I just wanted to thank you. I know there was a paving project in my district, one of my constituents. Inevitably, there's going to be some curb damage sometimes, and you responded immediately. The constituent was pleased. I know it's being taken care of, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing that.
Okay. The next item before us is clerk item number 283-22, which is an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with Public Works. May I have a motion? Moved by Legislator Giuffre, seconded by Legislator Drucker. The item is before us.
Okay, so 283-22 is a supplemental appropriation for the department to receive an additional $100,000 from New York State DEC through the Long Island Regional Planning Council. This money is part of our septic rebate program, and that's what it'll be utilized for.
Can you just give me a quick status of the septic rebate program? You know, how many residents have applied?
I don't have that handy. I knew you were going to ask that question today, so if I can bring that to the ledge session.
Perfect.
And get you guys an update, because this program is also tied to other funding sources, including ARP, so there's a lot of pieces and parts. So I'll get you a status of the whole program.
Good. Status, how many residents,
Yep.
how much have been awarded
We'll
out?
get something
got
to
it.
you, to this body before that meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Arnold. Okay, is there any other debate or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yes,
Ken,
sir.
just a quick question, because on some of the other projects that we're seeing, obviously, are in the multi-millions of dollars. This one is $100,000 to, for replacing aging and failing septum systems. It just seems like a low amount, $100,000.
It's what happens in a lot of times these grant things is money that gets passed through different programs. We've received, and this body, I think, is approved from the DEC, I think it's $2 million for the same program.
Okay.
So it's just, they jumble together different fundings, and we receive it, and this is how we accept it.
So this just adds to what we've already
Yes.
received?
And when I get you the update, you'll see the bigger picture.
Okay,
Because there's also ARP that matches, so this is a fairly decent-sized program right
Okay,
now.
thank you, Ken, appreciate that.
Any other debate or discussion? Any public comment? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. So we have an addenda item to our agenda. So I need a motion to suspend the rules. Moved by Legislator Walker, seconded by Legislator Bino. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. The rules are now suspended. So there's one item on the agenda today, which is clerk item number 288-22. It's a resolution authorizing the county to implement a program of projects funded by the State Mass Transportation Capital Program to advance such funds required to be advanced by the county and the state of New York to implement such programs and to authorize the county executive to execute any and all agreements and other documentation necessary to implement this program. Commissioner Arnold.
Yes, so like I mentioned earlier, 288 is another master agreement with New York State for $1.5 million. This is the 10% match for the 11.5 that the federal government provides. So that's how this program is put together each year. Federal 80, state 10, county capital the last 10%. So this master agreement is that contract with the state to receive that $1.5 million.
Okay. So what? Rules are suspended. So I don't think we need a motion. I did a motion to suspend the rules, I believe. I don't think so, but, all right, we can make a motion if you think you need it, but once we suspend the rules, my understanding, we don't need the motion. So we'll say it's moved by Legislator Kennedy, seconded by Legislator Salages. And again, the item's now been before us. Do we have any public comment? All in favor of the item signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes. If there's no other business in front of this committee, can I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Legislator Walker, seconded by Legislator Giuffre. All those in favor say aye. All right, this committee is now adjourned. Will be followed by the Health Committee. Thank you, Legislator Walker, for filling in, by the way. You did an outstanding job.
I'd like to call the Health Committee to order and ask the clerk to please take the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Roll call. Legislator Joshua Lafazan. Legislator Arnold Drucker. Ranking Member Delia Dirigi-Witten. Legislator C. William Gaylord III.
Present.
Legislator Laura Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you, ma'am. Vice Chairwoman Mazi Palip.
Here.
Thank you. Chairwoman Rosemary Walker.
Here.
We have a quorum, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, there is one item on the agenda today. It is clerk item 282-22, which is an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with the Health Department. May I have a motion, please, by Legislator Schaefer, seconded by Legislator Drucker. And the item is before us. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good, thanks.
So this appropriation is in the amount of, Andy Simone Health Department, in the amount of $5,725,000 for the Ryan White program. This is 100% grant funded through the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Funding provides comprehensive health and social services for people living with HIV and AIDS in Nassau and Suffolk counties. The Ryan White program addresses the disparities in access, care, and treatment for racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic minorities. This grant has been in for 20 years. They served 3,100 clients in 21-22 and project to serve 3,276 in fiscal year 22-23.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments from the legislator? Any public comment? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of clerk item 282-22 signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye. And this will move on to finance. Before we close, I just want to thank you, and if you'd share with the rest of the department, thanks for all your help over the summer, notifying us about beach closures and everything else.
You are very welcome.
Really
Department.
appreciate it. Thank
You're
you.
Welcome.
Yes, a motion to adjourn by Legislator Gaylor, seconded by Legislator Drucker. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Okay, we are adjourned and move on to finance. I think she's on her way back, Laura. Well, no, I don't know if that's Laura. I don't know what's Laura's and what's not.
Okay, are we all set? Mike, would you please call?
Roll call, Finance Committee. Legislator Joshua Lafazan. Josh? Thank you. Legislator Carrier Solage.
Here.
Ranking Member Arnold Drucker. Legislator Rosemary Walker. Legislator Thomas McKevitt. Thank you, Legislator Rhodes. Vice Chairman John Ferretti. And Chairman Howard Copel. We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Since we have a number of items on addendum that we're going to deal with early, better? I'm going to ask for a motion to suspend the rules, and so moved by Legislator Walker and seconded by Legislator Drucker. All in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye. Okay, the rules are suspended. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to call a number of items, all of which are similar. These are either to wholly or partially exempt certain real properties, various properties around the county, and those would be numbers 256, 257, 258, 259, 260, 261, 262, 263, 264, 265, 267, 268, and on, let's see, on the addendum, $295. Okay. All those in favor of those items, please signify by saying aye. Motion. Motion by Mr. Ferretti, seconded by Ms. Walker. Thank you. All those in favor of those items, please say aye. Any opposed? Those items are passed unanimously. Next, we're going to deal with a number of items that have gone through other committees and require no further debate or discussion. And those items would be number 266, 270, 272, 273, 274, 275, 279, 280, 282, 283, nope, these are executive, just checking, give me a moment here. Okay, that's it. And motion by those items by Mr. Drucker and seconded by Mr. Ferretti. All those in favor of those items, please so signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Those items are once again unanimous. Okay, now for the remaining items. And we'll start with, let's see here, number 271, which is an ordinance supplemental to the annual appropriation in connection with the Department of Toxicology and Medical Examiner. And there's a motion by Mr. Rhodes and seconded by Mr. Lafazan. Please.
Carolyn Kelly, Deputy Medical Examiner, on behalf of this number 27122. It's an annual a supplemental to the annual appropriation ordinance in connection with the Department of Toxicology. This covers 3 grants. The first is a New York State Aid to Crime Labs grant from DCGS in the amount of $102,108. It's used to support the accreditation costs and activities of the toxicology lab under the umbrella of the medical examiner's office. The second grant is the New York State DMV Highway Traffic Safety Grant in the amount of $36,000. It is a federal pass-through grant. This one supports drunk driving and drugged driving, impaired driver testing of blood and urine. The third grant is a New York State Department of Health Enhanced Toxicology Testing Grant in the amount of $63,452. Again, this is also a federal pass-through grant. This grant supports drug testing related to the opioid and drug overdoses.
All right, thank you. So they're all pass-throughs. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of this item, number 271, please so signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item is unanimous. Thank you. Number 276, which is a transfer of appropriations, and there's a motion by Mr. Solage, seconded by Ms. Walker.
Ken Arnold, good afternoon. 276, the board transfer to reallocate traffic safety funds from the interfund account in the department's budget to the general expense account.
All right, any questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? That item is unanimous once again. Number 277 is another transfer of appropriations. And there's a motion on that one by Mr. Drucker, seconded by Ms. Walker.
Thomas Delaney, Office of Emergency Management. Item 27722 is a board transfer within a single appropriation, allowing us to spend down the grant funds that we were awarded.
Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item is unanimous. Thank you. 278 is supplemental to the annual appropriations in connection with the county clerk. And there's a motion on that by Mr. Rhodes and seconded by Mr. Ferretti.
Good afternoon. John Butler, Fiscal Officer for Nassau County Clerk Maureen O'Connell's office. Item 27822 is for a New York State Local Government Records Management Improvement Fund grant in the amount of $5,475. Our office will use this grant to further the digitization of records in our office, specifically 50,000 oath of office cards.
Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? 278 is unanimous. Thank you. Number 284 is supplemental with the Office of Management and Budget. Motion by Mr. Rhodes, seconded by Mr. Drucker.
Good afternoon, Andy Persick, Office of Management and Budget. This item is appropriating $3 million of the workers' comp money we received in 2018. We have a list of claims that we will be coming to with you.
Probably from the state?
This is the money from the state that we got. Yeah. We have a list of claims that didn't line up simultaneously with the settlement of the claims, but we wanted to appropriate the money now because we have a 30-day window once we make those settlements that we have to get the money out the door. So this is settling some old claims that we had out there, and this is the monies from the state that we're using. So.
Okay, and do you have anything else, or that's it?
That's it for today.
That's it.
I have one other item, which is yours, which is the board transfer 301.
So why don't I go ahead and call 301 as well. Let's see. And 301 is a board transfer for year 2022, and that is a motion by Ms. Walker and seconded by Mr. Lafazan.
This is a board transfer between the clerk of the legislature between line items for monies that they require. So.
Okay. Any questions? All right, all those in favor of those two items, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those are unanimous as well. Thank you, Andy. Let's see, what do we have here now? 285 is another transfer of appropriations. Another motion by Ms. Walker and seconded by Mr. Drucker.
Thomas Delaney, Office of Emergency Management. Item 28522 is a board transfer within a single appropriation, again allowing us to spend down our grant funds.
Any questions? All right, all those in favor of 285, please say aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. Let's see, number on the addendum now. First addendum, 288 is resolution authorizing the county to implement a program of projects funded by State Mass Transportation Capital Program. And motion on that by Mr. Ferretti and seconded by Mr. Rhodes.
Good afternoon, Ken Arnold. 288 is a master agreement with New York State DOT. This is the 10% match that we get for our bus funding. The federal government provides 11.5. This is the state's way of getting us to 1.5 million, and this is used for our rolling stock, capital improvements, and capitalized maintenance.
Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, number 296 is making certain determinations pursuant on SECRA relative to a franchise agreement between the County of Nassau and Signal Outdoor Advertising as a franchisee, authorizing the franchisee to install, maintain bus shelters and bus benches at various bus stops. And that motion is made by Mr. Ferretti and seconded by Mr. Solage.
Good afternoon. Ted Hummel from the County Attorney's Office, appearing for the Department of Public Works. This is to approve an amendment to a franchise agreement that expired on March 31 of 2020, right at the inception of the COVID pandemic. The initial franchise agreement was for a term of 10 years. It had 2 5-year renewal options. This amendment, subject to the legislature's approval, would formally exercise the first renewal option. The franchisee installs and maintains the bus shelters and benches throughout the county, and has the exclusive advertising rights on those facilities. They pay a percentage of the gross advertising receipts billed versus a minimum guarantee of $600,000 per year. Those are the essentials. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of that item, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 270 is supplemental with parks, recreations, and museums. Didn't I? Never mind. Okay, so now I'm going to call a number of items which will require executive session. I'm going to call them all together. And those would be numbers 228, on the regular calendar, and on, let's see, on the addendum, we'll have numbers 289, 290, 291, 292, 293, 302, and motion on those items is made by Mr. Drucker and seconded by Mr. Ferretti. And now I'm going to have a motion to go into executive session. All those items made by Mr. Rhodes and seconded by Mr. Lafazan. All those in favor of going on into executive session, please say aye. Okay, any opposed? We're going into executive session on those items to which members of the Rules Committee are invited as well. Thank you. Okay, can everyone on finance grab their seats? Where's John? John Ferretti? Oh, there you are. Okay, Rose, we got me, you got Drucker. Okay, good. So on the following items, where we've been in executive session, and those would be numbers 2 to 8, and let's see, and we had 289, 290, 291, 292, 293, 295, 302. All those in favor of all those items, please so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those items are all unanimous. Now, Mr. Drucker moves to adjourn. Mr. Rhodes seconds the motion. All those in favor of adjourning finance, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're back to rules, to finish rules.
Going to call the Rules Committee back into session. I need a motion to suspend the rules. Sure. Moved by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell, seconded by Minority Leader Abrahams. All in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the rules are suspended. Okay. Okay. All right. Rules have been suspended. I'm going to call the consent calendar. There's the items that just went through other committees a few moments ago, and include the following: 228. These are all 2022. 228, 256, 257, 258, 259, 260, 261, 262, 263, 264, 265, 266, 267, 268, 270, 271, 272, 273, 274, 275, 276, 277, 278, 279, 280, 282, 283, 284, 285. And then on the addendum, 288, 289, 290, 291, 292, 293, 296, 302. Motion by Legislator Schaefer, seconded by Legislator Rhodes. All in favor of those items signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? They carry unanimously. Yes, I will call the next two together. Actually, 229 first. 229 is a resolution to ceremonially designate a portion of the county road known as West Main Street between Spring Street and South Street in Oyster Bay as Marie Colvin Way, and directing the Department of Public Works to install conspicuous signage along said roadway. Motion by Legislator DeRiggi Whitten, seconded by Minority Leader Abrahams. Any debate or discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. 230, a resolution to ceremonially designate a portion of the county road known as Maple Avenue between Linden and Post Avenue in Westbury as Fireman's Way, and directing the Department of Public Works to install conspicuous signage along said roadway. Motion by Legislator Schaefer, seconded by Legislator Bino. Any debate or discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay. 269 of 2022, it's a resolution to confirm the county executive's appointment of Stella Spanikos to the Nassau County Advisory Council on People with Disabilities, moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell. Any debate or discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That carries unanimously. Next one is 209. It's a resolution confirming the appointment by the county executive of Norman Samut as judge of the District Court of the County of Nassau for the 2nd Judicial District, moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Schaefer. Any debate or discussions? Any public comment? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. 294 is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the Incorporated Village of New Hyde Park in relationship to a project to demolish and construct a new community center. I'll move that, seconded by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell. This is actually a CRP which replaces another CRP that they decided not to proceed with. So, any debate or discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. 295, a resolution to authorize the county assessor and or the county treasurer and or the receiver of taxes of the town of North Hempstead to partially exempt certain real properties situated in various school districts assessed to designated owners appearing on the assessment rolls for the specified school and county years. Pursuant to this resolution, motion by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell, seconded by Legislator Schaefer.
More of a general question for anyone here from assessment.
Good afternoon, Dan Ross, Department of Assessment.
How are you, Dan? This is more of a general question, and it kind of summarizes all of these. We're just trying to figure out in the coming months, in regards to the disclosure notices that have been done in the past, does the county plan to pursue those, and is there any update on the actual reassessment plan? Last time I think we talked about this, and we haven't had a chance to talk since then, so I just wanted to see any updates on those two things.
As to policy of how it's going to go, there is no update at this point in time. Any type of disclosure notice will be in full compliance with state law as well as county charter.
When do you anticipate having an idea of a plan if it was going to happen in regards to reassessment?
Truthfully, I'm not in that position to answer that question at this point in time.
Okay. You don't know when you'll be able to answer that?
No.
Okay. Got it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that item? Okay, hearing none, any public comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. The next three I'll call together. There's a 297, 298, 299. These are resolutions to confirm the county executive's appointment of John Ziev, Nadia Ortiz, and Laura Webster to the Nassau County Advisory Council on on people with disabilities. Motion by Minority Leader Abrahams, seconded by Legislator Bino. Any debate or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. 300 is a resolution to confirm the county executive's appointment of Monica McGrath to the Nassau County Bridge Authority. Motion by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Schaefer. Any debate or discussion? Public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Last is 301. It's a resolution to authorize the transfer of appropriations heretofore made within the budget for the year 2022. Moved by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell, seconded by Legislator Schaefer. And that.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I just wanted to. I mean, we're glad to see that the board transfer. We're glad to see that the board transfer is moving forward to be able to serve each of our constituent bodies in regards to redistricting. But one of the things we have heard is that there's been much confusion in regards to the process in terms of redistricting, and I think what further adds to that process, Presiding Officer, is the fact that we have what we believe conflicting dates in terms of the deadline of when the TDAC or the Legislative District Commission needs to be able to provide a map to this body. We put legislation in, and we would like to at least get the opportunity to have the legislation heard, whether through a hearing or through a hearing or a committee meeting. And we want to continue to implore you to put the legislation on, not particularly for a vote, but just for a hearing, because we truly believe that because of the deadline discrepancy, it's going to lead to more confusion with our constituents as well. Because of the June, yes, because of the June primary cycle as well. Thank you, Bill.
The charter has end dates, but that doesn't mean that you'd have to go up to those end dates to approve a map. And we are obviously cognizant of the June primary as well as the fact that petitions will go out in late February. So we're cognizant when the Temporary District Advisory Committee finishes its work, we're cognizant that our actions, should be on the map, should be taken in contemplation of those earlier dates than in the past.
You and I, Rich, are in agreement. I agree that the commission can definitely do their work earlier than those dates, but without having the redistricting commission abide to what we had put in our resolution, we don't know what they may do. And that's why you and I are in agreement, but I don't know, are they in agreement with that understanding as well? And maybe we should find out together if they are.
I mean, I believe that they're going to, my understanding is that they're cognizant of their states as well, and I think they're looking to complete their part of the process in a timely fashion as well. So, I mean, if it becomes their work extending to a time period that we consider possible to conflicting with the schedule for petitions, and then I think we would intervene. But at this point, there's no indication that they are. I mean, they have established a schedule of meetings. They may add meetings, but they're all relatively soon, and at this point, it looks like those meetings will be done sometime in October. So there's every appearance that they're going to get the map to us in a very timely fashion. Their maps. Okay. All right. Any other debate or discussion? Any public comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Motion to adjourn by Legislator Rhodes. Second by Minority Leader Abrahams. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Carries unanimously. That's a wrap, Frank.